Welcome to the Legal Aliens Podcast. I am Abi Sanchez.
And I am Iasel.
And in the studio today, we have the one, the only, Melissa Boom Boom Duprey.
Of the Humble Park Dupreys.
Boom, boom.
And the Humble Park Dupreys. And I have a quick question for Melissa. Why do you still support Goya? No, I'm just kidding.
You know that's not
Why are you
true.
all pro Goya everything?
Why are you all pro Goya?
I knew I shouldn't have come in this basement.
She was like,
No,
this is a fucking ambush.
For those that don't know,
I usually come in a
Melissa,
basement.
we have actress, activist, comedian, voiceover artist.
Mm-hmm.
What else do you do?
Recently discovered.
Multi-hyphenated. What else do you do?
I'm a multi-hyphenate. I'm a playwright, a producer, an activist, actor, stand-up comic on the side sometimes.
Oh, shit.
There is no side.
There's
It's either all in or all out.
You're
That's
all
not
in.
true. It's just I'm more talented, so I get more jobs.
Oh, shit.
Wow,
we
someone
dropping
wants-
bombs over Baghdad.
Somebody wants this. Somebody wants to show off.
I do a lot of TV, film, and theater, so most of my life is all wrapped around in the arts. But I feel like art is political, so there's no reason why I can't be an activist as well. So,
Do you think being an activist might put a strain on not your arts career, but more like TV or film career?
TV, no. Film, no. But definitely comedy, because these followers are dropping off like flies lately. They were like, "Oh no, she's political." I was like, I thought all of the best stand-up comics were truly like in some way.
What, political?
Yes.
Yeah, they have an
Yes.
Yeah.
I think they all have an opinion.
Yes, but
I think you
A
have
political,
to be.
their own political opinion.
It's
Yeah.
just
Something to
interesting.
lean on.
It's just interesting enough to see how many people are dropping off because they didn't expect a woman to be a stand-up comic, vulgar and political at the same time.
Outspoken, right?
Yes,
It's
yeah.
like-
So like they really have a problem with like know your role, know your lane. I'm like, you
it's like-
never had a problem with other comedians being vocal about oppression or being vocal about racist cops. Like, oh no, you watched Eddie Murphy throughout the
Yeah.
whole time talking about it.
Yeah.
That's
No, but
I never understood that, where it's like, oh, you have other opinions other than the things that just make me laugh. Like,
yeah, you're kind of pigeonholed into that category. Like you shouldn't have like that type of opinion. Like
Right.
you shouldn't be able to speak your mind. I am
like-
because you are at the end of the day an entertainer.
It's
an
like
artist.
that LeBron James shut up and dribble shit. Where it's like,
Exactly.
well, I have a platform, so why wouldn't I use it to, explore things and all this other shit. So, but you were recently part of the rally that happened for the Columbus. We call it the Columbus rally. Like,
Yeah.
what was the initial goal of that rally? If you guys don't know, there was a rally here in Chicago that started where?
So it started right at the Buckingham Fountain. It was the Black and Indigenous Peoples Rally. So
Okay.
if you've been seeing a lot of this word called BIPOC,
Now, what is
around-
the B for?
it's for Black and Indigenous people of color.
But
Meaning
black-
like minority groups, right? Kind of.
It's
But not black is not part of people of color anymore. Like, is it?
no black.
No?
Black. When you're talking about Black people, you're specifically saying Black people.
Okay.
When it's kind of like that one drop rule. If you have like Black people and then you have that one Asian guy in the back, then it's people of color because now you're including the Asian person.
okay.
So like
Right.
any
Okay.
non-white person is a person of color.
Okay.
But you would not call all Black crowd the people of color because they're specifically Black.
Right.
And
Okay.
so it's important to make that distinction because when we say POC spaces, not all POC spaces are safe for Black people because there's anti-Blackness globally.
Yeah,
so like
outside of the
right.
So you're saying people are racist against black?
all over, right?
What?
Besides white people,
Right. So like,
I've
like
never heard a Mexican say
No.
anything negative about a black person.
Yo no tengo pelo malo. Yo no tengo un pelo
Yeah.
malo. Like it's so
shit.
maybe something that we were seeing in Humble Park as well in light of George Floyd was the fact that Humble Park and a lot of our residents and community members were really showing their asses out, being
Yeah.
super critical about movements and protests. I know that there was a conversation between protesting and looting, but there was so much anti-Blackness going on in the Latinx community.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah,
I have
true enough.
right, and so like not all POC spaces are safe for Black people.
Right.
So this rally was specifically Black and Indigenous POC, but it was Black and Indigenous out of that BIPOC is the B and the I, right? And so Indigenous people from the Shy Nations organization that are water protectors here in the city, and Black people decided to activate together, host a rally, and talk about aligning and making sure that they were in solidarity with each other's movements. Now, that rally was beautiful. People showed up. There was demonstrations. There were speakers. Everybody was like, "This is cool. This is peaceful. We're outside. You know, we've got drumming going on. This is great."
And then white people.
And then all of a sudden, no, the white people were there. white people there, and they always show up. And then all of a sudden, you know, someone's talking about, you know, we have to make sure that we are in solidarity with each other. Whatever we do in these protests, like, I'm glad you show up at the protest, but there's things that happen and y'all leave each other alone, and we have to stick together. So now so one of the organizers is now saying this, and we're like, what's about to happen?
I believe the actual quote was, "We're not here to judge anyone's anger today."
Who said one of the
one of the organizers
of
on stage, yeah.
Okay.
And that was kind of, I'm sorry, I don't mean to take over, but
it's this.
But so that's our footage.
This is your
actually.
footage, right?
Yeah. So, and we, me and Dwayne, our correspondent, were there, and we, looking back, all the signs of what was going to happen were there, but we just didn't see them before they happened.
Well, listen, I mean, like, we were when you come to a rally, you come to a demonstration, you come because you're down, right? You're down for whatever. But what we was saying was, like, the way that things had been happening is that when you're coming to a demonstration, you also have to make sure that you have the other person's back. We're not calling them allies anymore. We're calling them accomplices. So knowing that you are about to get down. And so they were like, okay, now we about to march. And I was like, all right, I guess we about to march. We're going to make sure we get home.
There was no plan to march. It was legit a rally.
It was a rally, but you
started there, right?
It's kind of embedded, or like a collective yes, that if a march happens, great, we're also marching. So we all like, okay, we're marching, and this is what she's alluding to, that we need to march and stay together. So now we're at the march, and we're marching down. We're like, cool, a few blocks, this is cool. We're doing our chants. Again, we're cool. Then we start to veer to the left. What's going on in this park, we said. And then we, all of a sudden, we're at the statue. So at the point in which we veered off to the statue, then we realized there was an action that had been pre-planned that most of the people that went to the rally was not aware of, because when you're about to do something illegal, you're not going to sit there and tell everybody this is what you're about to do.
I heard people brought their children and stuff like this.
So there were kids,
we had
dogs.
a baby with us. You know, the bikes were intentional because people wanted to make sure that they were barricading. So, like, certain messages, and if you're a part of organizational threads, that information does get passed down, you know, through word of mouth and things like that. There was a lot of people, but for what we were trying to do and what they were trying to do, they needed like 10 times more people, because really they wanted to optimize on the rally, knowing that people were going to show up for a peaceful rally, right? So that way they can build a blockade between cops and the statue.
What group was it that it was an entirely separate group that had planned this?
I'm sure there was multiple groups.
There are always multiple groups that endorse an action, so that way they're supported, so that way you get organizing, because like it takes a lot to organize it. This just doesn't pop off. It takes weeks of planning, a lot of energy and people power. But honestly, like when the ropes came out, that's when most people who are like protesters and organizing bodies were like, oh fuck. So we just got to be rioting now, because that shit is not coming down with some ropes.
Oh, when the ropes came out to take down the statue.
To break down a statue. So we've been seeing this happen throughout the nation, right? It's like, you know, the tearing down of these symbolic statues of oppression,
which,
these colonizers.
I want to point out, were not statues that had been there for hundreds of years. They were put up like the race, like right after the civil rights movement. Like, hey, don't forget. You can ride the front of the bus now, but don't forget that General Lee is still standing. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like these are historic statues that need to be revered, that they've been there for years, like the David in fucking Italy. These are things that they just put up real quick to fucking shut up black people, like as still a symbolic gesture towards them, like a big middle finger for the most part.
It is a threat to liberation everywhere. So
because they don't have Hitler statues in Germany. Like, remember what this guy did?
This was given to us by Mussolini. Like this has a history of dictator.
So
you know, it's a dictator.
Tyrant written all over it.
It has tyrant, colonizer, oppressor, rapist, all of those things. So
and I didn't know Italians rode for Columbus like this.
Listen, I don't even know why. This mofo was from Genoa, who was a colony. It was their own separate government from Italy. Like, they're the Puerto Ricans of Italy. Like, I don't know why Italians was like, that's our heroes. Like, he wasn't about it. Italy wasn't even.
I never heard no.
He was charged too. He was like convicted of crimes by his own countrymen.
Felon.
Like, he
was not a good person.
But there was an Italian American alderman speaking Saturday morning. That was like, he was like, take it down. Like, You know, it was like, and I was like, man, that's awesome. Like someone speaking up. So it's not just one side. It's not thinking that we're like racist against Italian, because it's not the case either. It's
no,
like, you got a statue of a fucking dude that, what? They go on my phone. You know, of a guy that you're rapist, you're colonizer, you're right. Like you committed genocide, man, for like the 10th degree, man.
And it's like it trips me out when people still believe their grade school and high school education and don't expand beyond that. Yeah. Like, I remember when I first learned the real truth about Columbus was in that book, Lies My Teacher Told Me.
Right.
And it's like, and he broke down like all the factual shit that happened. And I was like, damn, these motherfuckers riding Puerto Ricans or Taino Indians like donkeys because they didn't want to get their feet dirty in the mud. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he was killing off the men and all this other bullshit. And it's like, oh, and why do we celebrate this dude?
Yeah. My dad told me about him.
And he never even made it. He never even made it to North America. Like, he never made it here.
That dude was a drunk. He went the wrong way.
He was going to India.
He was the biggest joke. He was the biggest joke. And what's astounding to me is that...
So he was the Donald Trump of 1492.
I mean, like, he didn't even have that much power.
Yeah, he was going off credit. That's it. That was
right,
money.
like, he didn't even own his own boats. Yeah, he was renting yachts.
Donald Trump don't own the Trump building. He just owns the name on the front of it.
Right.
Donald Trump leases his name.
This idea.
That's basically, I mean, if you look at
across this ocean here.
It's so wonderful to see, there was a couple aldermen that did speak out and we're like, there's no reason to protect the statue. And this is what was so astounding. I was like, the amount of force that pushed back on innocent people that were holding the blockade was to protect a statue. It was like, this is how hard you're going to uphold white supremacy and oppression, is to instill violence on people who want to tear that down, but you want to protect it so hard.
On the flip side, you're also putting those cops in unnecessary danger as well by guarding this fucking statue that they're obviously a gang of people trying to tear down.
But you got to think about there's an imbalance that starts right there though, and an imbalance in power and in politics, because Lori Lightfoot, and not just her, but everybody, it's planning like who are we supposed to take care of in terms of constituency.
Right.
Like, are we going to support
that statue? Can't vote.
You know what I'm like? Not that, but it's like the police force. Right, or the people, right, or is the blacks, the indigenous people, the people of color. She's like, I don't know what to do,
and that's not doing anything. So that means
for someone's telling her, like, no, you got to protect that statue.
Yeah,
because for her to come back out and saying, no, this was wrong, but this was right. That's what they were there on Saturday, because like, did you really have to put the police there, or could you help them? But like, you know what, you're right. We should take this down. Maybe there's another way. Let's sit down and talk about it.
There was easily something that she could have done, because if she was working on the side of the people, then that would have been the logical move. Be like, you're right. I hear you. Let me figure out what it's the historical context. But like, honestly, that Columbus statue is not driving the tourism economy. Nobody's going in front of. It's not like people are not going.
You know what drives the fucking bean where everyone can look at themselves. Like,
no one's going to honor Columbus.
That's like that giant petri dish of Chicago. See all the fingerprints on there?
I guarantee you.
But you know what's interesting is like this shift is like people are learning more about DuSable. People are learning about like the Haitian that discovered the city. People are learning more about like we're doing land acknowledgements of the land that we're on that belongs to the Three Fires, the Potawatomi. Like we're learning more about it, and so what we're doing is honoring indigenous.
And that's what should have happened. Like,
it should have happened. So like be on the right side of history. Sometimes I'm asking Lori, like, do you care on how people paint you? Because one, people know you're an op, and you know you're pro cop, and the whole national conversation. You've got lawyers and mayors and governors talking about we do want to divest from policing because it costs $67 billion just in one city, and we could be putting that in mental wellness facilities and making sure that Cook County is not the largest mental wellness.
You have 40% of your budget towards this police, but also you're closing
down schools. But so you want to put police academies and close schools. Like remember, she wanted to do that in police academies, and she still got elected.
Before she ran, right?
And she still got elected. You know, like. Yeah.
She's plugged. That's what I'm saying. There's connections. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a wave of power that's forcing her, like, you have to do this.
Right.
You know, but then she plays, but then she's here saying right now, I don't want the feds, because you don't need to send the feds over here.
Right.
You know, she knows her limitation, but there's also...
That's a pride thing from her. She's not going to let a white man... That's
what
joke
I'm saying.
to
There's
do
a bit of
her
activism
job.
in her. Oh, yeah. But she's playing the role too,
that shit is please don't step on my toes. That is being a woman in power. That is not coming from the side of revolutionary thinking or progressive thought. That
knows the power, knows her position.
I mean, I'll give it to her. Like she definitely wears the saggy pants in the relationship.
Those motherfuckers are creased though. Okay?
Here's the thing.
They are. They stop the crease at the knee when the shit hits the floor.
I think a lot of politicians need to stop worrying about the next reelection and start worrying about what's happening in front of them right now instead of worrying like, all right, well, if I got to handle this, I got to play this role correctly. Otherwise, I'll never get to make this change. But at the same time, if you're always worrying about getting reelected, then you're never going to do anything that's worthwhile, right. I feel, because you're going to feel like, all right, well, I might turn off this group of people and I lose that vote. And they can't afford to do that. So if you're going to be like a politician, you have to work for what's happening right now.
These umbrella people?
Anybody
I was going to bring that up. So,
anybody dressed like Mr. Robot, I posted this shit and everyone got mad like, I dress like that all the time. Like, no, motherfucker. No. If you were covering your face and you were dressed like in all black so you can't be distinguished, then really you are there to start some shit.
These people were not part of the organizing bodies and they incited a lot more violence.
Like, why the fuck you got an umbrella?
When the organizer called the banners to the front, and you can hear
banners to the front.
Banners to the front. We marched down the whole, down Columbus behind these banners, and they used these banners to change clothes into the, I guess,
Mr. Robot.
Yeah, we had to cover them. We had to cover them.
Conservatives would call them Antifa.
M Society.
M Society. But these are the folks who had the ropes. They threw the ropes up, who were throwing projectiles at the cops, and they were hitting other protesters with this shit too.
No, there were girls next to me that got hit in the face with fireworks. I'm like, again, like that is not a tactic that black feminism, black feminists and black activists use. That's not our tactic.
I guarantee you, all those people are fucking white.
No, they are.
They are all white.
They are. And you know what really pissed me off is that afterwards, while the police were finally removing agents. People, they were calling people to cover them up so that way they could change and put themselves in regular clothes and disperse and disguise them up. And they were like, come on, cover them, be a fucking ally. And I'm like, listen.
Yeah, that's not allyship, dude.
That is not what we're here for.
That's weird, man.
That's not what we're here for.
Like, anybody that's going to protests and you see motherfuckers with umbrellas dressed in all black and skin tight clothes, don't let them in. Just legit, like, hey, but those people.
You need your own police. No, your own security.
Those people are not on your side.
This is skirting a line of respectability activism, right? Is this shit needs to go down, and by any means necessary. These are the kinds of things if a bunch of white people are willing to put their lives on the line and be in the front line and be accomplices, cool. That shit needs to come down, and we shouldn't be the ones that have to do it. Because we are less likely to survive a detainment or an arrest.
But also, exactly. And they are, and they know that with that white privilege, so that way they don't fear the same things that people of color and the BIPOC people. They don't fear the same things because they know they can go out there and then take that off. I'm like, what do you mean? I was just here. You know what I'm saying? Like,
so
they're still a white person. Like, they still can get away with that shit.
And this was my personal opinion as an activist and a protester and demonstrator, is that I didn't consent to that action, but I'm always going to be down, and I'm always going to
but when you
know
say
that
down,
there's red.
What do you mean by letting me down?
What I mean is that
because you're already down by being participating there. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
No, not always, because it's performative and participatory if you're just participating. Activism is an active thing. And so, it's about strategy and tactics. And I believe that there's a way to be pointed and focused. Like, this was a focused thing. It had a clear target. It definitely had a mission. Did it have the right tools? It was a fucking rope, y'all. Yeah. And that has a steel core, and it's a steel statue, probably made of three different alloys. Like, that was not.
So they knew then, because were the cops already there when you guys veered to the left then?
Yep.
So someone tipped off the cops, or the cops
obviously
fireworks were used, and this is what I was saying on the news, and I said what I said, and I don't care who.
Go ahead.
I said what I said.
What was it that you said though? Because there was
I said, and this is something that just needs to be reiterated and clarified, is that the violence that the cops received was preemptive, so that way we had space at the platform, because they were already protecting a fucking statue.
So they were already at the statue. Yes. I want to know how they knew that was going to pop off.
Because in the demonstrations that were happening with George Floyd, and knowing that statues had been getting taken down everywhere, they were already
because they have to know when the protest is happening, right? Don't they have to be notified?
Also, somehow? We're surveilled all day long. Yeah. They know when things are about to pop off.
They know.
My name is Abe Sanders.
Are going to these protesters' rallies.
That was the statue had been covered up for a while. What I
Yeah,
would have
heard it
liked
was
to
like a
see is
month
like
or something.
right. What I would have loved to see is like the fucking plastic set on fire. You know, knowing that you're
Right.
not gonna take it down, like set that shit on fire and let that be a symbolic representation of decolonization. There were certain things that I just didn't feel like were safe, but we're not here to be safe. We're here
See,
to
there
be
now
There it
you can
is.
see things are already being
Active, right.
thrown.
right to get them the hell out of the way, to give us space and bring safety.
I don't.
Like, that's
I don't
what
know,
I'm saying.
man. Like,
I
I don't know if I agree with that wholeheartedly,
right. No, I
but I understand.
if you were a peaceful rally, it should have just stayed at that in some capacity. There's honestly like to start throwing shit, lighting fireworks off at motherfuckers, like that gets to a
But
point
look
where
who's doing it though. Like that's not the organizers.
no, and it's coming from the other side, so I can't see exactly where. But the videos I saw, it was all dudes with umbrellas sitting in the front, all covering up, like. And that's the thing is like you see motherfuckers with umbrellas. The same thing happened with the George Floyd protest when that dude set a AutoZone on fire.
Yeah, it's all
Yeah.
white dudes.
Yeah, he walked in with a fucking gas mask,
That shit
breaking all
happened
the
in
windows.
Ferguson,
Like,
too.
But
when
can
they
I
were
can I just
protesting,
put it
yeah.
in perspective around civil
Same thing.
action? Like I see what you're seeing and trust. Like what you are now doing is humanizing cops, and that is okay. But there's so little room for Black people to be humanized, and what in the realm and the spectrum of civil rights history, we had never really seen cops be on the receiving end of violence the way that Black people and organizers and protesters
True.
had always
Right.
been. So a cop got hit in the face with a bottle. Cool. A 18-year-old girl got her teeth knocked out
Yeah.
for getting in the way of someone that was getting dragged away who could have been disappeared.
sucker
And
punched.
she was
Right.
all she was doing was saying, "What is your name so we can track you and find you?" And a cop knocked her fucking, that's a baby.
Yeah, I
It's
saw
a
that.
baby. So I give a fuck if somebody was throwing a can or a bottle rocket at someone who had bulletproof vests and guns and all kinds of protective gear already, when we all are there with just our bodies. So in the grand scale of things, and just to put it in perspective, they were in no harm and no danger. Not like we are, and not like the
Not
violence
we
that
are.
we
on a
get
daily basis.
on a daily
On
basis, and even in that protest, because we didn't pepper spray them. I got pepper sprayed.
That Friday?
We didn't.
On Friday?
On Friday, yeah. The entire crowd got pepper sprayed. You know,
Was this
and tear gas.
before? Was the bottles being thrown in response to that, or was it that in response to the?
you see a lot of projectile shit being
Right,
thrown
and then the response was pepper
fireworks, so
spray.
that way we got space. So then when I say that's a
Oh,
preemptive,
so you were trying to get space.
that's it was for them to
was
back off
yeah.
from the statue so they can do their job. That's why I'm like, that was a pre-move, and that was a bottle, and you know,
back off from the statue. So what can happen?
so that way you can get to the statue and take
tear
it down.
Oh, okay, so
And I really believe in their minds they thought that they were gonna tear down that statue with a rope, which to me I'm like, oh,
I mean, if you
man,
look at it, it's like two little ass.
I
ropes, and
know.
it's like,
Was it?
but even just a
That
picture of
plastic
it.
rope to the yellow one?
No,
But it's
it-
cool to like see that there's a rope tied around Columbus's neck, and like
Right.
even just that visual was pretty cool. No,
Yeah.
but like once I saw rope, I was like, fuck, we gotta ride. We gotta ride. We're down. We just have to do it, because like there's no way that that's actually happening. But
Right.
we just got, this is a point of no return. Something's gonna happen, and we just have to follow through.
Wow.
So that is not indicative of how young Black protesters always navigate things.
right. I mean, there's
that-
always agitators in any group, because you can see
Always, man.
anything that happens.
Infiltrators, man.
Yeah.
That
I mean,
shit
but-
goes back to down with Bobby Seale and Fred Hampton. man.
COINTELPRO.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, and then
That's-
like
that's-
John Lewis may, rest with the Lord, and
Yeah.
and be an ancestor, opening the doors for us and keeping us protected, because there's a long way to go. We have a long way to
What was
go.
he known
Right.
for? Good trouble. He wanted to get in good trouble.
Right,
Right.
but like let's just be real. A lot of our liberties and benefits never happened peacefully. It had to be forcefully taken back
The
for
fucking
us.
American,
I
even just the
100%.
American Revolution.
The
It
right-
was-
the right-
that shit wasn't peaceful.
the
But we're
right for
still
us to
paying
vote.
taxes, though. We're
Yeah.
still paying taxes.
Well, yeah.
Why?
Our voting rights came from protest,
right.
Right.
from fighting back, getting tired of getting beat in public.
Yeah, so I mean,
ridiculed and humiliated.
You gotta fight back. You gotta you can't just sit there and accept it, because the
I-
minute you
And
do,
Yeah.
I appreciate critique, because there's always, retrospect, and hindsight's 2020, and I appreciate ways that we could like look and learn, and this is what we're doing now.
Right.
We're preparing, like, what did we learn from Friday?
right?
And what are we learning on Lori's response and how she handles stuff? Because now that there's feds coming into the city based off of a federal order by 45, we're looking
Agent Orange.
right. We're looking at how our mayor responds, but we also also know that our mayor is undoubtedly and 100% on the sides of protecting police.
See, and then you get the police perspective, like Lori Lightfoot don't give a fuck about the police, blah blah blah. Like,
and they're gonna say that.
It's always a weird. It's like
it's an odd relationship.
Look at the budget and look at the priorities. You know whose side she's on.
Once we'll see that next budget comes out, and we'll see if anything gets mental health institutions are opening back up again, so it help the homeless problem, help people that are just on the street running wild. You know what I'm saying? Like just with obvious mental health issues. Like same thing happened in fucking Uptown. Once they close down the facilities, you look at Uptown. Uptown's crazy.
A homeless population will ensue. So like, how is she attacking that? And also when we think about like just even the verbiage of black on black crime, I was like, the feds instilled the coke epidemic nationwide. Protesting and looting back in the 60s and 70s left black communities vulnerable, and they were thriving black communities on Madison Street, and they never recovered because of
the crack cocaine.
Of the crack cocaine epidemic. But they were left vulnerable from those protests and from all of the bashing, and like even Tulsa, Oklahoma. Like once those massacres and raids and
the Tulsa shit was just straight up jealous.
It was a straight genocide. Like it was a massacre.
Jealousy. Like
there were thriving black and brown communities all over.
It's a threat to power, man. It's power.
And that's the thing. It's infrastructure. It's systemic.
It's disallowable.
And the thing is, if you view that as a threat to power, like, and even if you don't hold power, there's people that are like, how can you support this movement? Like, how can you not?
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying. Like, what part of you would thinking that you're gonna benefit from this shit?
They're not understanding our feeling, our side. That's why
a lot of people feel powerless. So like this is kind of going to social media, and there's a lot of people that will perform activism and perform allyship, and it's great to like black out your profile picture. It's great to make sure that you're sharing information, but there are ways in which people can actually be involved in their community that has nothing to do with protesting. It has everything to do with like promoting black business, buying black or buying brown. Like, you know, us Puerto Ricans in our community, it is a shame that we keep going down Paseo Boricua and we keep seeing the same storefronts close. Like, we're not investing economically back into our community.
Yeah. It's like, you know, the same stores open.
We're not learning how to buy our own homes.
Because we're creatures of convenience when it comes to shit like that. It's like, man, I can go get all that at Target. Why am I going to go to 4 different stores to do that shit? And it's like,
we lost Joe's Hardware.
I saw that shit happen to my hometown in Puerto Rico, in San Sebastian. Like, I remember the Pueblo downtown was packed full of stores. It'd be an ice cream shop, be a shoe store, you go to a dress store, blah, blah, blah. And then Walmart came in.
Took everything.
And because everyone's like, I'll do the 15 minutes drive to Walmart. And this one's in Isabela. Mm-hmm. So you go over there and then it's like, yeah, I'll just get everything I can here and it's a lot cheaper but at the same time, you just straight up destroyed your own town. It's like, so now all those people are jobless because
you destroy your commerce like that.
Because of fucking convenience. And it's like, we got to get out of that mindset of like, I'm gonna go support Target. It's all there. Like, even people like, I could spend an hour in Target and fucking buy 500 things. Like, well, spend that fucking hour walking down the street and go and supporting a little fucking bodega or something, or even just a Cermak Produce, a Tony's Finer Foods. You know what I'm saying? Like, shop at these local spots.
I mean, they're Greek owned, but they speak Spanish, so I'm down.
But I mean,
they down as hell.
Dude, fucking Tony's got some of the best Puerto Rican rice. Because everyone that works there. Because the thing, if you don't shop at that store, the people that work there are your community. So those people are out of that. Those are your people out of jobs because of that shit.
I agree. So thank you for allowing the space for like some of this conversation, because I know that there's people who are like, that wasn't right. But also, like, if we just take a step back,
we want an explanation.
I'm not gonna say I'm one of those people that,
you know,
I'm not one of those people that said it wasn't like right. But when I saw all the projectiles and shit being thrown at the cops and then a firework being blown up, like literally on that platform, I was like, hold the fuck up, like legit. I want to know what happened that led to that.
That was a tactical move to give space to push them back.
At the same time, when I saw the video, I saw the black umbrellas and I'm like, that's where the shit went wrong. And then it was just
that's when it went awry.
So. Like, as soon as I saw that group, I was like, all right, this is I can't express this. I do not trust any of those people. Anybody, black hoodies, like the minute I see that shit, it's a fucking sign to me as much it is seeing the fucking cops at the end of the block.
White people do not have the same risk and fear of
because
getting disappeared.
And
they can go back to Itasca and go to bed at night.
Right. And this is one of those movements that I feel that like black or white people got to fucking step back a little bit. Like, all right, we're gonna let you guys handle this shit because
step back from the protests. You mean?
Yeah. I mean, I support. No.
Out there.
I know you need bodies, but don't be at the forefront. Don't show black.
We're there to listen. We're not there to.
No. I need them to pull up. Actually, like I need them to be at the front line. So things that I learned in Standing Rock at the occupation is like if you're a visitor, then you need to support the front line. But here in Chicago,
don't show up with fucking umbrellas.
I mean, it's performative as hell. You know, like
those are a different group of people. I think that's incomparable to James and other white people that are out there protesting.
No, I know there are, but
who's James?
This is James.
Hello.
Super producer James Webb.
Did you want to sign a Google form and be on my dating show? I want to have a conversation with you.
Your dating show.
I'm extremely married, but I will.
It's open to all genders.
All right, let's do it.
All polyamory.
Polyamory. Pimping in.
No, but okay, so
it's about connections. It's not about dating.
Hold on.
It's about astral connections.
She's talking about her Zoom show called 50 Blind Dates, which we will get to. But I do want to continue on with the little activism thing because not the little activism thing.
See how condescending he is to me?
No. I want to talk about.
It's all right. I guess.
Just because you steady solid, like
just that little shit you're doing on the side. No, no, because it is important. What are the future steps, like future rallies, future protests coming up? Anything you could talk about?
Yes, I'm glad you asked. So thank you for that beautiful segue into the future.
Nice.
What is going to be happening and what you'll be seeing is a lot of rallies and occupying spaces. What we're trying to do is disrupt the status quo. Right. And that's everything. Is like we cannot go back to business as normal. I mean, we're in the pandemic.
Right.
It happened for a reason that we are in a place of forced rest and forced stillness, because this allows us to be able to make corrective structural changes and structural shifts. So people are optimizing on the movement of George Floyd because like George Floyd is not the first one. George Floyd won't be the last either.
He just had the misfortune to be in the one at the end, in the middle of a pandemic.
In one of the most grotesque form of murder was like a cop just nonchalant cutting this person's and the whole time live on feed. So
and the one in front of him, like I don't know what's going on behind me. I don't care.
Right, and so that's a particular kind of torture. And so the next thing that's going to happen in the city is at Homan Square, which is a police sanctioned and funded torture site that's been around in the Lawndale community for generations. You know, generations can tell you, I was taken over there and tortured and never booked. It's not documented. Hardly any of them are documented. So about 14,
it's infamous.
It is infamous. So like
right,
and so 14,000 documented disappearances have occurred. More than 100,000 is the actual number. So 4 years ago, the Let Us Breathe Collective and several other organizing bodies created an occupation there in the site that celebrated the Lawndale community and was called Freedom Square. So that way it was the antithesis of the Black Torture Center across the street in Homan. So this Friday is the 4-year anniversary of it. And so the next rally is going to be at Homan, across the street from Homan Square. It's going to be called the Freedom Square Rally. And we are going to have performances, food, a reimagination of the tent city that used to exist. That occupation 4 years ago was like a pop-up occupation where they were just going to create a blockade, block the entrance of Homan Square so police couldn't get in and out. But then we occupied the lot across the street and we held that lot for 41 days because the kids were like, oh, y'all camping out? I want to camp too. And like you couldn't really tell a kid. I was like, oh no, this is performative.
Right. Yeah.
They came back the next day, put tents out, and it became like a 24-hour childcare programming,
nice.
Free food, bookstore, free store.
Right outside the facility?
Right outside for the Lawndale community, because like if we were really thinking about what does a world without policing look like, it looks like community showing up for themselves.
Sure
and so you know, it was abundant, right? There was like more donations than we could handle, more food. It was like a fully stocked kitchen. There was a medical tent. There was a free bookstore. So we're recreating.
You altered the whole energy right there.
Shifted the whole space and like the idea that the community is we have everything we need. So this Friday from about 4:00 till whenever, we're gonna reoccupy that space and
the same kind of group, the Freedom
Let Us Breathe Collective, and a couple of other BYP 100 is one of the originating organizing bodies, and Black Lives Matter Chicago I think is also part of it, and the Chicago Bond Authority. So we're gonna reoccupy that space and try to reclaim what that liberation space looks like and a world without policing looks like. So there'll be performances, speakers,
Now,
food, and
when you say without policing, what is it that you mean?
when we say defund the police, that is divesting from the fraternity of the police and putting it into communities. And what that looks like is if we put money into wellness, and if we put money into combating addiction, if we put money into, our youth and decolonizing their education, actually learning that Columbus didn't found shit, right? Then we will discover that we are enriching and we're loving the Black and brown communities in ways that allow us to say that we don't need police.
Right.
We don't need you to police us.
We don't need to be policed. We
don't need to be policed.
Yeah, we need police. I mean, there are fucking crimes that do happen and need to be solved.
I mean, and who shows up with them? Most of the time, you could just call the fire department for the things that you like.
It's really
that's the thing. Right. It's like a lot of people, like everyone calls the fucking police for everything, and it's like, if you
what's the number to the fire department? Like, can I just call them?
Yeah. Fucking 911.
But it's really a behavior.
Hello,
outcome,
hot guy
though.
in a uniform.
I'm on fire.
No one fucking hates the fire department.
No, man, because they're chill as hell, man.
No one ever made a song called "Fuck the Fire Department."
Yeah.
It's like
ever.
It's fuck the police, marry the fire department,
and kill the president. There you go. Now you're flagged for real.
The thoughts and
SWAT
opinions,
team and shit.
Brian.
The thoughts and opinions expressed by the viewer, by the guests of Legal Aliens. No.
It's a game, right?
No, but
that's what it comes out to behavior outcome, though.
I think the cops need to come out with a calendar and more.
No, they don't, because nobody needs to put more money into that.
You're reinvesting in them again.
If it's free and you're gonna like auction it off to give it to all the schools,
if you divest, right, in the, like you were saying, towards the police, right, from the police,
$67 billion.
Do you think that some of that money could, now on top of what you were saying, given back to the community for education and recreational purposes, just for a better euphoric space? But
I think you're using a lot of words you don't know a whole meaning to.
But I'm saying is, like, don't you think those cops can also use some of that money for actually
training,
better training,
more training, like
to do what?
But to help out and like social
to nullify certain situations.
So that way, their first instinct isn't
de-escalation.
De-escalation.
That is not something that a cop needs to do. I just want to put this out on the table. A community accountability council is what's being put on the platform right now. It's called CPAC, right? And so, like, do you need a cop to come and de-escalate, or can we train our community to de-escalate? Can we train people that are not based in a historical context of keeping Black people enslaved? Can we train an accountability coalition and empower the accountability coalition that exists in every community to be those de-escalators, to be the people that you call when there's tension, when there's
like, who are these people?
So let's put an example, like crime, okay? Carjacking. Somebody breaks into a car. What are you gonna do? What have you already done? What has the police department ever done for a carjacking, or when your shit gets broken into?
Well, no. Once the shit's already happened, the cops can't really do much about it. But
so why did you call the cops?
Because that's the only thing we know.
Conditioning.
No, exactly.
It's costumbre.
Exactly. But so what? Who are the people that you were the de-escalators? Who are these people? Like, they're just people in the community that are trained to do what? Like, these are people that
it's like you're almost creating another force, though. You know what I'm saying?
It's an accountability coalition. So like it is empowering the community to be able to handle and take care of themselves. So you are empowering someone that has de-escalation tactics, that is coming with resources, that is saying, okay, let's figure out what this person needs, why they're doing it, where that violence is coming from. Like, these are people that get to the root of harm reduction. And so we're looking at the system of policing in different ways. We're not asking these community members to police. We're asking to abolish the idea of policing and to talk about what harm and violence is and get to the root of that, and then figure out ways to solve it by putting money and dollars and energy around the thing that they need. It starts with mental wellness, y'all. Like, it really does. Like, it starts at mental wellness, and it starts at economic liberation. What people do when they're poor,
and starts with giving people options to get, like, that, to see that there is a better way.
Right. Like, why do people break into your cars to steal shit? Why do they steal shit? Because they don't have. Why don't they have? Because they're third generation person that was born in a food desert, and that's all they
even eating habits too, man, has
right.
affected people's behavior.
Eating
the
habits.
things that people
I mean, the fucking food deserts when they put up the Whole Foods, and then they're like
the toxic that's in a bag of Cheetos to a child, man. It's,
bag of Cheetos, fuck the bag of Cheetos. Fucking Arizona iced teas was only $1. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just drinking all this.
Some Arizona ice.
Shout out to Deanna Moffat, who's listening to us right now, and be I love everything y'all are talking about right now. Thank you for this, though. This is dope.
This is what we do.
It's good to have a difference of opinions from 3 different angles. No one's really coming to a congruent agreement, but which is fine.
But that's the thing, is like, this is part of the shit that needs to happen. Is like, I need to listen to you, and then you have to listen to me, and then you educate me and things like that. So when I say like we still need police, and you're like, well, no, we might. There's other ways. Like, I'll probably be open to that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think.
But it's not a complete abolishment of police, but I understand that like divesting is huge though. Like, how much is it? $67 billion.
That goes into the budget of policing for things that we don't know
here,
where
though,
those line at.
But
here alone in Chicago,
that's crazy.
But there are certain things that like exactly. There are certain things that like I would want a cop for, like a detective to fucking solve a murder. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I would want that to happen. Like,
so like, but is it?
I think it'll be a gradual process on both ends.
No, exactly.
Right.
You know
what I mean? Do it.
Levels. There's levels to this shit.
Exactly.
Like we
start slow.
It's not gonna happen overnight, and we also concede to the fact like this might not happen in our lifetime, but we're having conversations in our lifetime right now that are super exciting because people are getting it.
But then also you can educate people to like, hey man, listen to the people that are running like your wards, your aldermans. Like everyone's. This is I talk about this like the 15th time.
Hyper local power is so.
And that's the thing.
Prevalent.
Is like everyone's worried about voting out fucking Trump.
Yeah.
Like, but what about your neighborhood? What about those people that are like activists in your neighborhood that are actually willing to do something for your neighborhood?
Yes.
Get that in there. And then like you're worried about fucking voting for Trump, like just fucking worry about your neighborhood at first, and then that will like.
But a lot of people don't
over.
know that. You know what I'm saying?
And they don't want to because all you're doing is being force fed. I don't know who the fuck's running, like who ran for alderman in my ward. You know what I'm saying? But I know goddamn well, like Trump's running, and then fucking it was Biden, and it was fucking Sanders, and it was all these other people.
Your local government has a direct impact on how you live.
Yeah.
The federal government, it takes a while for you to feel those effects. Maybe it's like a small tax bracket break. It's something that might come down in your medical insurance or your Medicaid, or a pandemic. But your local government is a direct effect to you, your taxes. Where money gets spent in your schools,
judges that you can elect, that are issuing out sentences. Like
we could really decrease prison arrest and bail bonds if we were watching the judges and like really educating on who is slamming away our young and black youth at ridiculously high bills, and high amounts, like the arrest rate.
Just to keep them packed.
Because it's a moneymaker. It's called the prison industrial complex. It is a moneymaker. All of our heads have a bounty on it.
It's fucking ridiculous. So we need to. I mean, literally, like, I wish people would more focus on the local community instead of just reading the news about the national thing. Like, I shouldn't know so much about the fucking racist happening in South Carolina more than I do about that's happening in my own neighborhood. Like,
or the fact that this judge that was appointed to the Epstein trial, like her son and her husband got shot. Like, judges have power.
Yeah,
they have power.
Well, whoever shot them got power too.
Well, apparently the suspect just killed himself. So
took a cyanide pill. Not today.
Again, we're being flagged so hard.
He shot himself in the back of his head.
Twice.
He put two.
He unloaded a whole clip into his sternum.
Double tap myself.
I had two guns.
Was a detective? How did he do this? How?
I don't know. This is clear suicide. Look, he's got a rope around his neck. Like, wait a minute.
I can't with y'all.
No. All right. Well, we're gonna
switch
gears.
I had a good segue. You didn't want to take the exit.
No, because I wanted to keep talking about this because a lot of people, they hear that defund the police and they think it's like completely abolish the police. I'm like,
we are having. I just want to, I don't want to backtrack on myself, but I think that as a prison abolitionist myself, I do believe in a world without prisons. This is prison abolitionist, right? The goal is to abolish prisons. How do we do that? By divesting in police,
right? And
also
stop making it profitable to put people in prison.
Prisons are modern day enslavement because of slavery had always been an economic preserver of whiteness,
you can
right?
pay them 7 cents an hour to build a road for you.
But this is how white people in our country built their wealth, and this is the biggest the biggest disparity is economic liberation, and they got it off of enslavement, and they're doing it
They're
off
still
of
doing
prisons.
it through prison system.
Exactly. So the
Can we
goal.
say rich white people? 'Cause I don't feel like poor white people are fucking.
But they profit
'Cause they
off
go
of
to
privilege.
jail.
They
But they
benefit
also-
off of privilege. Like
they
that's
do,
why
but
we
they
have
also-
Karens like out of fucking pocket, because Karens benefit off of privilege. Nobody's gonna like strangle and chokehold a Karen.
Just like white dudes with umbrellas at fucking rallies profit off.
I saw this documentary.
I mean, I see no lies detected.
I saw a documentary with Mike Tyson and
Damn.
Evander
Did you
Holyfield.
really?
And Mike Tyson was being interviewed when he was in prison. He was already signing a contract to fight Holyfield. And he was talking about being in prison. Why? Stop. So then he was like, man, he was talking about being in jail. He's like, because the guy asked him, like, do you feel you're being reformed or rehabilitated? He said, what are you talking about? He's like, this ain't no rehabilitation form here. Like, there's no, when you hear you're like, you're caged up. He looked at him like, there's no reform in prison. But I can't wait to get out of here. So I was like, and this is like the toughest motherfucker that you know,
Right.
Mike Tyson. And he's telling the guy, looked at him like, with a screw face. I'm like, what are you talking rehab, reform? Like, this is hell.
It's not
They
correctional.
say
facility.
ODB set himself on fire because he couldn't stand being in a cage.
Right.
Like
I mean, you lock
he
somebody.
went
lock somebody
crazy.
up.
He's like, I can't do this.
Okay, put it this way. Imagine how we all motherfuckers don't want to wear masks because they've been cooped up in their house and all this other shit. Now imagine you're in fucking prison for fucking years.
Yeah.
You're not gonna get better.
No, there's no reform from that, man.
You're not gonna get better. Like there's no fucking reform.
Or
coming
you're gonna
from
come out as an attorney. Like there's only one or the other.
prison. or a Muslim.
Yeah.
Something being-
Yeah,
You're like
Tyson
you're an
came out with the
enlightened being,
goofy.
or you have a PhD, or you're worse.
Right.
Like,
but you
those
still
are
can't
just-
get a job because you got a check felon.
No.
right. And the money that you were supposed to make was like cents on the dollar. You know, like
fucking-
you lost your life.
Because
You
I mean,
lost your life.
even the phone calls in prison are money makers that they can't afford to make. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like some people can't afford to call people at home because it costs them $11 an hour, and you're calling up like another person isn't living in a poor community. I want to call them, like I can't talk to you.
Oh
right
my
now,
god!
man.
I remember I had a boyfriend in prison, and my mom found out because the phone bill came back $350.
And you talked to him for
God.
5
Yo.
Was he an activist?
No, I was in high school.
He was like, he was a
minutes.
criminal.
He was a criminal.
I was in high school.
It would have
Like,
been a
look,
pen pal relationship
it was
real
locked
quick.
up.
That first bill came like, yeah, I'm gonna start writing you letters, bro. Stamps are way
It was-
cheaper.
right.
How do you feel about
Yeah, but
cursive?
yeah, right. I was like, I can't read this shit. Why do all inmates write slanted but like handwriting? I was like, is
Because
this
you're writing
between?
on a pillow.
But
Focus is on the walls and shit.
but you like make a decision. Is it
There's
cursive?
holes
Is
in
it
the
is
fucking
it
paper.
is it not?
Nah,
cursive?
Oh,
I can't. My first romance, Cell Block D.
was a prison. That's fucking,
Fucking
funny.
crazy.
So
I've moved up in the world though.
wait, did he start out in prison?
I don't know. It was just a phone call. Like he got my number from somebody and he made his first phone call and be like,
That
"Hey,
dude must have had like the
girl."
dopest voice. Like, yeah.
Hey girl.
Hey.
Sounded like
That
Barry
was
White.
back when my room had its own landline.
Man,
So,
but you didn't get the collection call first? Like, this is
on.
a collect call from.
I didn't
on.
know these things. I was 17.
Hold on a second. So you had never met this dude? Have you ever met him?
I had met him at a party
Uh-huh.
on like a Friday.
Uh-huh.
He called me Sunday from jail.
Oh, hell no.
He still wanted to smash.
He's like, no. What up, girl? Remember me?
I tried to say it like I'm about to escape.
He
in like
called
2
me
days.
Sunday. Apparently, I left the party just in time because some shit went down, and he called me
How long was he in jail for?
like 7 days.
Ah,
You know,
girl,
like,
I thought you were about to say
Yeah,
7
that's
years.
a rude motherfucker. He couldn't wait a week. There's already a 3-day rule.
he called me every night, and we talked for like an hour on the phone the whole time. And then he was like, "I'm gonna come to your cafeteria, like next week. I'm gonna come out." And
With the orange jumpsuit and shit. Duprey! Is
Motherfucker.
Duprey here?
Motherfucker threw rocks at your
what
window.
was-
Let me up.
what was
motherfucker.
horrible is it was like I faked the note and I made my mom sign it. I was like, "Mom, I got a friend." And she was
Oh
like,
my
"Whatever."
God.
So she signed it, and it was cool because like he got out and he was coming to my school to come have lunch with me in the cafeteria. But the
Fresh
police
out of jail.
But the police officer that was at my school, because yes, police officers need to be in school, right? The police was like, "I know that kid. He's in juvie." I was like, "But he didn't come here to do nothing but just to have a date with me. He didn't come nothing but that was like
What?
enough to call the cops on him and put him in prison. He just couldn't get a win.
Wait. But what did he do to get back in jail? Like, so he got out of
some bullshit. Like, it's always some bullshit, right? Like, who's only in jail for 7 days if it's not like a ticket or like violating probation?
How old is this motherfucker?
He was 18. I was 17.
No, he was not 18. He was a full 29.
38 years old. He's in fucking jail.
Hey, girl.
This is how we police young
the
black
cancer
men
throat
just trying to
already.
get some pussy. Like, this is how bad it is.
Still had on the jail slippers and shit, just walking.
He did have on slippers and socks, though. I mean, I need you to
Hey,
stop.
ma.
knowing.
Hey, ma. With the shoulder shrug. Hey, ma.
Like, he was walking up and then he skirt.
He was just upper body swole, no leg workout, just all chest.
That's
Just
insane.
chest and bologna sandwiches.
Y'all
That's all
knew
he
him?
did all day. Fucking push-ups.
Y'all knew him? How'd y'all know him?
That fucking puffy,
He would
flabby
leave the sandwich
fit.
there, do a push-up.
Just that little jail swole fit.
Listen, again, the bar is a little higher now.
you, girl.
I would hope.
You got your
started
own
out
dating
low.
show now. Of course not.
Look,
You
he
do.
came out of the cell like he was ready to bang. I'm not stupid. Like,
She came out with stiff arm. It's like, slow down, player.
He came out ready to fuck. He's like, I've been in there 7 days. I ain't.
and I was 17. I was like, take me.
Oh
No,
my
I'm joking.
god.
What?
now
Oh
you-
my god! Now I'm feeling judged. Like, y'all
should
don't know.
not.
Please.
I don't think I would. The minute like if a woman called me, I met her on Friday and on Sunday she called me from jail. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna need you to like get out and then bye. Like,
How long are you in there for? Like, what did you do?
Like,
I have so
why-
many questions for you.
No. I was working the anticipation. I was like, yeah, you want to know what I'm wearing? Like, I was working it. I was like, this shit's gonna be good when he gets out. Like,
That's
the
hilarious.
build up. I was purposely building that shit up. I was just like, I've never shaved before.
That's hilarious. But now you have graduated to doing 50 blind dates on Zoom, which is tell us the gist of what
Equally
it is.
desperate.
Quarantine. Now everyone's in prison and they're home, and,
And
everyone's
Zoom is Wi-Fi. You don't need a call.
Everyone wearing sandals and socks and shit.
dating from Zoom.
Open to all races, genders, and felony convictions.
But so what is the
So when we
idea
got
behind it?
when we got into quarantine, like we were maybe 2 months in. This is almost at the end of March now, and people were really freaking out about the possibility of extending and saying, I haven't seen my friends, I can't go out, and
I
they
ain't
were,
gonna lie. I thought the shit was gonna last for 2 weeks.
yeah, no, that's
No,
where you were
I
wrong.
knew that was
I
a long
very
haul.
wrong.
Continue.
Right. And so I was noticing that people were more attached to the attachment to other people. Not the fact that they were things closed, but like, I can't see my friends, I can't see these people, or
Right.
like I can't see my family members. So, I'm a single person. I wake up and go to bed by myself. And I was texting a person that like I normally would be hooking up with, right? And the texting just wasn't enough, because normally it'd be like, all right, this guy is like have horrible communication skills. I will,
Instantly judged.
but I will end up seeing them and like super amazing energetically, like, in the room, but that wasn't happening, and that couldn't happen. And I was like, shit, like, this is what we're missing. And this is why I don't even like Tinder, because you do the same conversations over and over again. So I got on my thread with my girlfriends. I was like, COVID is really starting to show that the kinds of communications I was having with people that in my dating world is like, they were shallow and they're confusing. Like, you can't read tone on a text message. I was having fights with people, and I was like, just because I couldn't read like a nah,
Right.
Yeah.
right,
They're
and
like,
so
nah, and then you're like,
right,
nah.
yeah, right. I was like,
bitch.
what does this mean? And like, as a woman, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna read a lot into it, but I'm also like, just really want clarity. And I also maybe want to get on the phone now that it's quarantine and COVID. So I said, I'm going to commit to doing 50 Zoom dates with people for 1 hour each. And whoever's on the other end of that Zoom, I have to really listen and find a connection with. So that way at the end of quarantine, I can find somebody to go on that one coveted, oh my God, when this is all over, I'm going to go to this, my favorite place and my favorite concert and have a date. So it's really just to find that post-quarantine date, that one, oh, this is great and we're doing it again, person. And I'm on number 32.
On date 32?
I'm on date 32 out of 50.
And how are the dates set up?
They are completely anonymous to me. So I have a vetting team. I have a team of friends who within their network, so that way we know they're in Chicago and they're not crazy like Trump supporters.
In prison.
Right?
You want to date a Trump supporter?
There's a Google Doc,
Just a
right?
dude behind a glass window talking to you on a cell phone.
Remember me?
It's on Zoom, y'all.
I'm back.
Right. And so And so this is what
From
you're
his prison
seeing is
phone?
that we have an hour and it's open to all races, all genders, because again, like, what if
You
that
don't
perfect
know.
well, what if that perfect date is like another woman that I'm actually like really connected to?
Right.
Also, I'm queer, but I'm like, it's open to whatever. It's like, who are you gonna like geek out with if you go to a
Yeah.
particular concert, or like if you want to go to Comic-Con
Right.
when it opens again, and you're like, you need that person that's gonna be bubble
Excited,
fat with
right.
you, you know?
Right.
You need to find that kink, that connection.
That kink.
So you
Yeah, the
have
kink.
32 dates. Now, have you found anyone that has some type of connection or?
And
Yeah.
who are they so we can
It's like,
make them feel bad?
Listen, I'm a Pisces, and I fall in love with every single person on the other end. It's so dope because, like, I don't know if you've ever driven Lyft.
Yeah.
When a person gets in the back of your car and you just start talking to them, and no matter who they are presentationally, you find that everybody's fucking unique and awesome, and they have a survival story, and
Right,
that you
true
can't put them in the same kind of like generalities that we think white people, black people,
Right.
Latinos, like
People are
they
people.
you know, you're picking up a white person at 3:00 in the morning who just finished cleaning an affluent black woman's house, and like she's struggling. I'm like, completely flips my mind.
Yeah.
I went on I had a date that this man lost his grandmother who was really close to, like 2 days before our date, and he still said yes to it because he needed to find connection and joy and like forget about the fact that he was grieving.
That's dope.
They've all been amazing, and yes, I found someone that like I'm really interested in, and I kind of cheated a little bit and actually had a date, and like, man, the vibe was
A
off.
second date?
Yeah, the whole thing is like, I'm not supposed to have a second date until I get through 50. But
Oh my God,
but the
you-
process is so long.
Are you still gonna continue?
Shh, no,
Are-
yeah, I am.
You're not gonna continue.
confused.
You're not gonna continue with that person.
Well,
Or-
these men are so disrespectful. They're like, I already won, right? I'm like, you ain't trying to get a connection. You're trying to
You really
win a
getting guys like
contest.
that?
Yeah, 3 of them already. 3 of them
With
will be
that
like,
swag.
I'll just wait till you done with the 50, whatever. Or like,
Ooh.
or like they'll be
dudes
my
are always dudes.
right. They're
Oh
at
my
the end of
God.
the end of the day, they are. They'll be
But
hard in
every
my
guy's
DMs.
been like that guy though.
Huh?
Every guy has been that guy. You know, I already won, right?
Yeah, I
Mom?
got you.
You know what I'm saying?
You
what it
could just
is.
come back. Like,
Yeah.
I just
Every guy's been that fucking
whatever.
dude.
I'll just why don't we go like hit up Miko's in Palmer Square on Friday? And like my week has to be like, okay,
Well, we know that now because you will date somebody in prison. So
Fucked up. Man.
Okay,
listen,
so-
I never dated. I never dated. I got out of high school and I got into some like a lot of relationships that were 5 years long. I got into 3 of them.
Yeah.
That was 15 years. And I did not spend the time in my 20s.
Oh, you started just
Exploring.
long distance relationship.
No.
Not like long term. I mean
long term. Like
Off
I
the
went
bat.
right into long term relationships. So I actually never really dated, and I never really experienced someone being surprised. Like, a person on the date was like spending 45 minutes telling me how beautiful I was, and I never ever felt that or heard that. And I think it's really important that if I'm an artist and I created my own show, that the show is led by a young single Black Latina, and they're being told they're beautiful. I mean, I think that's important for people to see because it really made me feel visible. But mostly, like, I don't get that. I don't get that in the street. As a stand-up comic, as a woman, I have to be on my guard all the time.
Right.
I have to I verbally castrate you all day long. But that's because it's a defense mechanism for me being in my space by myself all the time.
yeah.
All the time. And so this was a really beautiful way of like kind of softening because I'm on a date and people are seeing a version of me that they never see.
So in these
That's
clips, though, are they just
Those are the episodes. So what I do is I take the hour-long date and I edit them down into
so I saw the
15-minute
15-minute okay.
episodes. And you just get the 4 or 5 best moments of it and then my thoughts and my cutaways. So I created the show in my living room. I edit it and I bring on a team of editors as well. And I have a couple of people who I invite to direct an episode. I say, hey, watch this Zoom date and then pick out the best parts of it. And then I give that footage to a director with the timestamps and they chop it up together. But I made this intro, like, this was hours and hours and hours. And it's cost me like $3,000 just to
Dang.
make 10 episodes.
You got to invest in yourself.
Always.
Oh, I am.
50 Blind Dates with Melissa Duprey.
I'm very proud of it. Like when I saw the first
what's up.
episode of Rough Cut, I cried. So this dude is a Black firefighter from the south side of Chicago who's addicted to
Matt.
he's addicted to
He's a
indigenous
pyromaniac.
no. He's a
addicted to fire.
firefighter, and this is the fan favorite. Everybody loves this guy because he went to Samoa to get tattooed, like
old school
hand,
way.
the stick tattooed by a
the
Samoan
traditional
king.
Maori.
Yes,
style.
yes, Apea.
Yeah.
And
Paella.
so Yeah, fire, yeah.
Oh, man.
So
I feel left
actually,
out.
I won't tell anybody, but I'm gonna tell y'all. I actually went on a date with this person because I could not wait because our vibe was so strong.
And because you had a few Modelos.
I had,
Let's just meet up.
What are you doing right now? What? No. Oh.
You just had a 12-pack, lady.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I have a fire department sent over here? 911.
I will say I almost faked an asthma attack to get the fire department.
You're
sent
dumb
over.
as hell.
But the
His
connection.
wife walked by in the background. Like, oh,
Right.
no.
He had
Business
altars. He had like his spiritual practice was strong. Like we had so much in common. I'm like, I never would have in Chicago. I will never run into this person.
Right.
I'll never be in the same space with this person.
Because believe it or not, a lot of our circles are very small.
They're
the circles
very-
that we run in.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Because I mean, I'll like if I meet someone that knows James, and it's like, oh well, there's 2 degrees of separation. I think from a lot of people.
We're all in the public eye, too, that
Right.
we think about it, you know.
Yeah.
I thought his name was Brian.
No, Brian was the guy that was in the other room. This is James. Is that why you asked who James was earlier?
Yeah.
No, that's James.
We told you this, though, like...
Come on. Like, he just
Don't
shunned
speak
you.
to me.
Like, like all the zoom went off of you. It was like straight on to Jose now. Like you're done. Where are we at on
Sorry.
time, James?
Over. Just
Thinking
over.
of
in
Brian, we're at
Brian, we're-
an hour and 6 seconds.
All right, we're at an hour.
Oh, damn,
This shit flew by.
I mean,
That was
it's,
good.
Is there any-
it's great. I'm so thankful that you
Yeah,
all
welcome
invited
aboard
me
the
for this
mothership.
conversation. I mean,
Welcome
I've been
aboard.
watching y'all and just like snoozing 15 minutes in, but like this was very strong.
She goes, I won't sleep on this one. I can't wait to watch it.
Listen, anytime she busts our balls, I'm like, I know it's because you're lonely.
Yeah, I've told y'all my secret.
So now we know. Like, indeed.
But I'm funny, like legit.
No.
Like the dates.
Look, you got a new
the dates
subscriber
are-
because that shit said 40
Yeah, no.
Oh,
when he first
shit.
popped it up.
Look at
So
that.
It was
make
me.
sure.
Hey, thanks, friends.
Well, unsubscribe because
Thanks,
she called you
Brian.
Brian.
Yeah, you're right.
Shout out to Brian. No.
No, I need ratings.
No,
Or
but for
at least
real,
leave a comment.
anybody watching right now, find 50 Blind Dates with Melissa Duprey and subscribe. All right, we got to get out here. But anything you want to plug? Any like
taglines?
You got the rally, the protest coming up. So go ahead.
The rally is the Freedom Square rally. You can find information on it if you go to if you follow the Let Us Breathe Collective. But if you follow my page, my IG at Boom Boom Duprey,
Boom boom. Duprey.
I will send out information on it. It's this Friday, 4 p.m. on in the Lawndale community. It's going to be on Lawndale and where is it? Kimball? No,
Oh, no, that runs the
it's
same.
Holman. I'll
Class.
send.
Just,
I always have a-
yeah, we'll find it.
Yeah,
well,
share it on my
Boom boom Duprey. Duprey.
Duprey
And
and
then,
Facebook at Melissa
Like
Duprey.
Jackson, is it maybe?
Mhm.
No, I'm thinking.
No, no,
shit.
no, no,
I'm gonna
it's-
stop talking.
It's further down. I
South, right? Yeah.
Lawndale.
Well,
on Lawndale.
so it was I Can't Breathe Collective. Is that what it is?
Let Us
Let Us
Breathe.
Breathe
Let Us
Collective.
Let Us Breathe Collective. Also, BYP 100 will be sharing that if you follow them. So that's going to be happening on Friday, but there will always be more programming and rallies. But to be honest, like if this is still a pandemic, if you feel unsafe going out in large crowds, there are ways to support the protests and manifestations is if you make sure you make phone calls for any police arrest. So if there's jail support,
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
you there's always ways to send jail support. Is like you call them, ask for the release of any protesters that were detained. You can send money. You can literally like take
Towards the bonds, right?
yeah, you could take snacks and water in your car and drive up to the places where we say send jail support here. Those are ways you can contribute without actually being
Thank
at
you,
the
Melissa.
protest.
That's
Jail
good.
support is the biggest thing because the people who are at the protest are often the people that are going to do jail support, which is like an all night thing.
Right.
It's exhausting. But what people really need is to feel supported and that they're once they get off to jail that they're not just there and forgotten about. And then yes, 50 Blind Dates is gonna come out with season 2, the next few episodes. If you'd like to sponsor an episode, holler at me.
Holler at us too, because
holler.
we need sponsors.
Right, you need sponsors. And then please follow the Good Grief Project, which is an interface that I made for mental wellness resources. If you are like, man, I want to try acupuncture, or I've never had Reiki, or I need a therapist of color, I need a queer therapist. If you go to the Good Grief Project page on Facebook, I have weekly interviews with practitioners of color talking about all kinds of wellness resources that are accessible. That's not it. I don't know.
Good grief,
yeah,
That
Charlie
one's
Brown.
Charlie Brown page.
Yeah, go if you go into Facebook and put
This
Good
is like
Grief
alternative
Project.
medicine, right? Well,
Right.
yeah, right.
Yeah, well, it's alternative medicine, but it's really a way to talk about accessible wellness that is in local communities, that is not attached to the medical industrial complex. Because like it's hard to get it's hard to be on a waiting list for therapists for 6 months at a sliding scale. These people are making sure that they are providing. It's right there. That third one.
This guy?
Yep. So every Thursday, I have something called Therapy Thursdays, where I interview either like a spiritualist, a Reiki practitioner, a healer, something
There you
that
go.
might, you could follow that page online, or you can get teletherapy. But I'm always putting out resources in the Chicago neighborhood that is part of like breaking the barrier to your wellness.
That's dope, man.
Well, that is dope.
Thanks for bringing that to the table, though. That's pretty awesome. Listen, I want you to do something, though. You out there being an activist and protesting. You too, James.
Yeah.
Stay safe, man. Be
Thank
safe. I say
We
that
try,
with a lot of sincerity. And, like, both you guys be safe. Like, I see the fireworks thing. I'm like, I get what you're saying, too. But I'm like, I work for people's safety, man. Always,
Right.
man.
I
Like,
mean-
make your point. Do what you
Yes.
got to do.
A girl's face
Stand.
got burned, and I'm like, this shit is
You know
so
what I'm
real.
saying? Like,
you know?
be safe out there, guys.
I-
Fuck those other people causing
Thank you
bullshit.
so much for the space, and like I admire
Yeah.
both of you and everything that you do for the arts and your
thank
your
you.
career.
No doubt.
So thank you for
Thank
having
you.
me.
And
back again.
Yeah. Follow us.
Legal
Sanchez
Aliens.
Comedy, Legal Aliens Podcast. And thank you guys for listening, and be
Love
safe.
you guys.
And
Sponsor us. Any
sponsor
shirts
us.
you guys
Send
want us to wear,
donations.
we'll wear them.
Sponsor us, because crime is not paying off.
Some bullshit.
I know. No one's,
I mean-
no one's stealing anymore, man.
Well, this one might be.
All that
Call your
looting.
boyfriend on.
All right. Yeah. Call that dude from jail. You can
He's
get
my
some
ex.
shit.
I don't talk to
Oh,
exes.
fuck that guy.
Oh shit. Wise. Okay. Bye.